Okay. So yeah, we were just saying that usually the problem we find people struggle with this machine is getting the measurements of the two bends in the right place. So quite often you'll find is you measure the first one, and then when you come to put the second bend in, the track continues on and the track sort of comes down there rather than where it should be. So we're going to whiz through that. I'm also going to talk fairly quickly about how we measure for the bay. So the first one we're going to do is the splay bay. We do the right angle box bay afterwards, but we'll show you this one first. So what I want you to imagine is that the wall is behind this measurement line here. If you can imagine, the first thing that you can do is put the brackets on the wall and then get some little offcuts of profile. Now these only need to be sort of yay big, and then clip them in to the brackets. Same on this side, and where the two butt together, that's your measuring point.
Front or back?
I'm sorry?
Where do you...
So if you can imagine, you've got the wall just here. Depending on which bracket you use, because you might use slightly different brackets
so
to come round, you know, obstructions or whatever. That will dictate the overall size of the track. It won't affect the angle, but it will affect the overall size of the track.
So at what point are you measuring?
The point I'm measuring is where the two tracks butt together. So if we've done the same on this track just here, there are brackets there and we've clipped that one in, slide them together, and that brings you to your,
that's what I meant, you're measuring at that point as opposed to that point.
Yeah. Okay. So the measurements I've got on here in this scenario basically is assume that you've done that, and you've got, so 30, 40, 30 is what we've been left with. Does that kind of make sense? So we've got a piece of profile. I'm not sure how big this piece is actually. Close enough. It's just under a metre. No, actually that's pretty spot on, so that's good. So we've got a piece of profile, so what I need to do is put those measurements on here. Okay? So we'll put the first one on at 30 centimetres. And then 40 centimetres along I do another one, so just about there. So I'm going to put, wouldn't normally do this in the real world, but I'm going to put nice big marks on there so you can see it all. So that's basically where I want the bends to. Now the next thing I do, I've got an angle finder on this machine, it's just here. And I'm going to be using that guide to bend the track. So what I need to do first of all is check that I've got the angle right. So there's a couple of ways you might do this. You might, if the wall will allow you, if it's a nice clean sharp angle, you can use the actual wall to find the measurement. But what you'll find in a lot of older properties is there's a bit of an arch around the corner, and it's not easy to get a good measurement that way. So what you can do then in that situation is when you've got the little offcuts of track in place, you can use that to find your angle. But either way you need to get a measurement. So we pop that back in the machine. What I'm going to be doing in a minute is when I bend the track round like so, the track's being bent round and it's held in place just there. I want to get to a stage, if you can see that, where that line just there is lining up with that. Can you see that? So we've bent it round to that point just there. It'll all become clear in a minute. So that's my bit of track. That's where I want the first bend to. So I'm going to slide this into the machine. Can you see that little mark on the top of the machine just there? See that line just there? That's where it's actually going to bend from. But the trouble is when I put that in the machine, I'm not going to be able to see that line because it's disappeared. up inside the gubbins just there. I don't know where that line is, so I need to put some sort of a mark on there so that I can make sure that's in the right place. So what I do, I make another little mark on the edge of the machine just here. You see where the edge of the machine is, so I line that up on top of there. And I put another little mark just there. That make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Don't forget the info.
So I need to put this in first, because if I didn't put the filler in, when I start to bend the track, it's just going to kink it. So that will just keep it in the right shape. Okay. So we pop that in there.
Always work upside down.
Depends which way you're bending. So the machine will only bend it that way.
So
What I can also do is turn it that way and bend the opposite direction.
Yeah.
It will do it both ways.
Yeah.
So pop that in there like so. Remember that little mark I made on the edge? I'm going to line that up with the edge of the machine just there. Can you see that little black pen mark just there? So pop that just there. Get this little chop. Pop that in like so, and just make sure that's up in the right place. And we're just going to fix that in place like so. So I'm happy that's in the right place, so the bend line, that's over that mark just there, so I know that's in the right place, I'm good to go. What I'm going to do then is just turn the wheel like so, and that will start to bend the track. And like I showed you just now, this edge just here, I'm just trying to line that up with the angle on the top. When I get there, which is about there,
Can you just turn the machine?
can you see that? That's pretty much lined up with that now. When I've got to what I think is about the right spot, just give it an extra half a turn. Because the reason you do that is that what happens, the aluminium tends to want to spring back. So you just give it an extra half turn just to So that's the first bend done. We're not too bad. Happy with that. So I've got to put the second bend in now. Now, as I was saying, if I just marked it exactly the same way, because when the track drags, when the machine drags the track through around the wheel, if I was to do it exactly the same, what you would find is that it would make it too long. It would actually bring the track down here. So I need to make a small compensation. So what I do you remember I put that over the top of the bend line just there? Can you see that? And I marked it on the edge just here. On the second one, you only do this on the second or each subsequent bend after the first one. You don't do it on the first one. Rather than mark it to the edge of the machine just there, I'm marking it. Can you see this line on the top just here of the word forest?
Mm.
I'm marking it to there. So when I put that in the machine in a minute, I'm still going to line that up with the edge of the machine, but it's actually moved my bend to the right of that just there, to your left. And that little extra allowance you give, make sure that goes into the right place. Pop the filler back in. Pop that back in the machine. There's my mark just there. Got that in the right place. I'm struggling to see my mark just there. Put bigger marks so I can see it. So there you go, you can see that now. Can you see that? And I'm just going to line that up to the edge of the machine. Okay, Okay, so I've got the filler in, it's all good to go again. We're bending it to the same angle. About just there, give it an extra half a turn. If I've done it right, and I have cocked it up before now.
No pressure. Oh, I think you're right.
Beautiful.
Which line are you working to? Back edge, front edge of your track?
Say again, sorry?
You're working to your front edge or your back edge of
It's
your track?
what you want to do basically is sit it on top of that line. You will get a little bit of twist in the track,
Yeah,
but once you put that in the brackets, that
I know,
finishes.
it's quite flexy still.
Yeah,
I'm guessing once it's bent, it can't be unbent.
sorry.
Once it's bent, it can't be unbent.
It's a struggle, yeah.
Because it's stretched it, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
difficult
so
to
it's
get.
done.
You can do it, we sell another machine which will put a big curve in a track.
Oh.
And with that, you can actually curve it right the way round and put it in the machine the other way and bend it so it's straight again. But with this machine, because you're putting a bend in it rather than a curve,
You're actually stretching it, aren't you?
it's really difficult. You can add a little bit extra to it, but to actually take it out is quite difficult.
Yeah.
So would you like to have a go?
This is still quite flexy than before. Go on, who wants to go?
Shall I stop recording now?
Yeah, stop recording and Joe will have a go.